You're used to pretty much hearing any sort of rhetoric on Fox News nowadays, but then to actually see a hate-fueled beatdown on live television, that's a little something out of the ordinary for now, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, Sean Hannity was interviewing Curtis Sliwa, who's the founder of the Guardian Angels. It's like a right-wing vigilante group. They're obsessed with the border. They're obsessed with crime in New York.
In the 1980s.
The red berets and the red jackets.
Yeah, in the 1980s, they would patrol the subways, and he even admitted that they would sometimes stage altercations on the subway in order to buttress their purpose for being there.
Their crime narrative,
yes,
basically.
That they would be crime fighters. He literally was like, I would sometimes just hire somebody to like fight me on the subway.
So this is
that sounds like being a criminal, actually. But
right. Urban Proud Boys. Urban Proud Boys is what we're looking at here, a little bit. And but they're angels. They're protecting you, except if you're this guy.
If you divide 53 million by 500, that's a $106,000 debit card. Not a bad deal. I don't think they're giving them to vets that are homeless in New York City. Not that I've heard, Curtis.
Should we? Sorry, 1 second. I just can't. This whole thing about looking into the pockets of people who are seeking asylum is sick. And like the people we should be processing and encouraging to join society and help us build it. Instead, we're like looking at them like this. And you know what? We should be giving more to the homeless.
Yes.
Thank you, Sean, for expressing your concern.
The idea to conflate the two is obviously very purposeful, because no money that's supposed to go to homeless vets is being taken away from the veterans and being given to, immigrants. And then on top of that, this complaining about giving these bare minimum resources to, the migrants to begin with is ridiculous too, because they care. These Fox News and these right wingers, they supposedly care so much about crime, right? Well, if someone needs to feed their kids and they got no means to do it, then they're probably going to do whatever they can to feed their kids. And that might include stealing a bag of chips from Rite Aid or something, right? So we give them the bare minimum when really we should be giving them more, but we give them the bare minimum to sustain themselves with the necessities. And that causes these guys to freak out. But then on the other hand of things, if not giving them things results to people doing what they need to survive, then they're going to complain about that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, we moved them from tents into like a gymnasium because there was a storm, and everyone acts like it's a great replacement theory in front of our eyes. It's like Nazi shit.
Also, like, Fox News is, as a whole, not in favor of giving extra to homeless people. I remember just like, it can't have been more than 5 years ago, maybe 6, when, what was it, Steve Ducey was pretending to be homeless outside of Fox News and showing how much money you can make panhandling, like that classic canard. Like, usually this kind of like red herring is less obvious because there's not like literal video evidence of them arguing against giving homeless people things. But like,
I mean, Hannity, how do you make the differentiation between the veteran that you see on the street and just like the average person that you've decided to deride? Yeah, there's no like Sims freaking like diamond over indicating that it's a veteran when it's somebody sleeping on the street who you will like mock mercilessly or show B-roll of.
Which, by the way, they don't care about the homeless veterans either.
They don't. It's just lip service to say like one poor person is
one's
more
a patriot
than
and the other is an undeserving money grubber. Yeah.
Yes. But,
and probably the Democrats aren't giving him what the largesse we give to all homeless people because he's a veteran and they hate the vets or something like that.
Which, by the way, Bernie Sanders was the head of Veterans Affairs Senate Committee for many, many years. And it's well documented how he had to fight the other guy on the other side, John McCain, tooth and nail for increased veterans benefits. If we want to talk about which party actually is more on the side of veterans. Also, leftists don't want to send them to wars so they get PTSD. But
we shouldn't be creating vets, actually.
Exactly. So with all that said, and all
but
that
then they wouldn't be veterans, so that means when they're homeless, we would have to demonize them and not treat them like heroes.
Right.
So, we...
Good point.
That's
both sides.
Negative.
So all that Fox News hypocrisy laid bare, this is what happens on live television the other night.
New York City, not that I've heard, Curtis.
In fact, our guys have just taken down one of the migrant guys right here on the corner, 42nd and 7th. While all this
Can you
is
pan the
taking-
camera?
They've taken over. They've taken over. You'd like the camera over there if at all possible.
Here we go.
Yep.
I guess they turn off the audio. Oh,
You got your key open, guys.
He is out of control. Out of control.
so that's 4, 5, 6, 7 of them ganging up on this person.
There.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Eric Adams often complains he's getting no support from the federal government to help him with the surge of Joe
They're choking him on the floor, by the way. One guy's choking him on the floor.
That could be because
Another
of
guy
the
looks like he's
border
pulling
czar
his shoes
is a
off,
little
honestly.
distracted right now. According to a report, Vice President Harris has now suddenly, quote, found her footing.
And they cut
she's
away.
now apparently getting.
And let's be clear here. In an interview with the Associated Press, Sliwa said he had believed the man was a migrant because he had been, quote, speaking Spanish, and because other guardian angels had encountered him with other Spanish speakers on previous patrols. So they have claimed that he was a migrant.
And that he was shoplifting. And
But he's from the United States.
Yeah, neither of those claims could be actually verified. Also,
he was a New Yorker from the Bronx.
Right.
Yeah, but he was speaking Spanish, so time to gang up on a guy
Yeah.
and beat
No
him
one
up on
speak
live
that.
TV.
No New Yorkers speak Spanish. We don't have a very large Spanish.
Yeah,
community
It's
here
very
in New
strange
York.
to be walking around New York and hear a different language. Like that's like, oh,
Right.
something's
Yeah.
Be fair.
strange now.
To be fair,
You should be afraid when you hear a different language. I think that's the lesson we should all take from this. Like if you hear a language that you don't understand, you should be afraid because you're entitled as an American to understand what anyone is saying around you at any point in time. And
Yep.
that's in the Constitution.
Right.
That's right under the part about like general welfare.
It's a failure
we should
that.
also
Go ahead,
point
Peter.
out that even if this individual was a migrant, though, that this
Yeah.
is not okay behavior. Obviously,
Yes.
Right. I mean,
This is the mentality that killed Jordan Neely, by the way. I mean,
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is like this vigilantism that's heralded on Fox News of white guy patrolling the mean streets of New York to kill people that might speak a different language or might be in distress. Like this just absolute frenzy that right-wing shows whip people into, even though we now have the data that violent crime is down. Crime in general is down across the board after an increase in the pandemic years in 2020 and 2021. The data has been clear that it's on the precipitous decline, from shoplifting to violent crimes, basically across the board nationally. And when you go city by city, this is not in dispute. And yet you would never hear that come out of the mouth of a Fox News audience member or somebody like this, who's just, a criminal, but in an outfit, like a funny little outfit, and Sean Hannity profiles that guy.
Yeah, I don't know if we've played it on this show, but the images we've seen from Israel with the Israeli protesters blocking the aid coming in. This is the same. It's less acute, but this is the same sort of manifestation of just racism, fascism, and I would just encourage those guardian angels to keep wearing those jackets. And we're going to publicize these sorts of attacks on native New Yorkers. And I would just encourage people that when you see those assholes out in the street is to make them feel uncomfortable. Because that shit should have been left in the 80s. It's fucking disgusting that nobody intervened on those assholes in Times Square. Not that you want to go to Times Square anyway, not because it's overrun by migrants, but because it's a capitalist hellhole.
Guardian angels are there,
Right, because people like that and cops. Yeah, also it's like the amount of cops that are there.
Yeah, but we should also mention that the NYPD took a side here as well. They charged the man being attacked with disorderly conduct because apparently he was loud and screaming and stuff. Everyone's very quiet in Times Square, so that was very out of place. But that's sarcasm, just in case people don't know. But the Guardian Angels, as far as we know, have not been charged with anything, even though they physically attacked this man who
On TV.
was doing nothing but maybe heckling them, which is not illegal.
They saw him as a propaganda object and beat the shit out of him for it because they had Hannity paying attention.
Yeah, right. And he said, pan to it. Pan and show us what you're about. And they did. They did. The fact that we've deregulated media to this degree. Like, I mean, this is just.
Oh yeah, it's not just Hannity. It's look at all the other people who were getting on us for our coverage of the Neely situation.
Yes,
we have there's a lot of people in so-called independent media or online media who are just as willing to cheerlead this sort of goon shit as Sean Hannity is.
Absolutely. And in the end, they're just telling on themselves and their own, the fact that they're unable to be independent in their coverage because fear is motivating it, not the statistics that I've now said multiple times. Crime is down across the board. It's not disputable. It's not up in the air. So if that isn't really at the forefront of one's coverage, you've got to call into question the kind of I don't know, the motivation behind it, and I don't necessarily think it's newsworthy.
And also focusing on the crimes of asylum seekers is Nazi shit. So people that are doing that, just be advised.